Hello, Poland. Shalom from Jerusalem. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Greetings. And how have you been able to keep this up? I'm really impressed.
I have no idea.
Okay, so the first question about the Abraham Accords. Do you think that the power dynamics in the Middle East because of the Abraham Accords somehow changed?
I think the whole reality in the Middle East is changing because of the agreements, the peace agreements that we've signed. This creates a new paradigm, and it creates or brings hope and stability, and will bring prosperity to this region. Especially when we're talking about a region that was known for its conflicts and instability. We see that the effect of the agreements on the countries that signed the agreements, but also on other countries. And I'll tell you just about in a few minutes and about, or in a few sentences about the surveys that we've done as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs in countries in the Middle East and with citizens in countries in the Middle East. Some of them we have diplomatic relations with and some not. And we see that there is a change in the vision of Israel. Instead of looking at Israel as an enemy, they look at Israel as a potential partner and friend. And I think this change will lead other leaders to taking this important step towards peace and to join the circle of peace that was created in the last few months.
Yes, so yeah, always when you talk about peace, we can say that this is a noble initiative. And but do you believe that this initiative, these accords, are permanent, are a long-term, solution for the problem?
No doubt about it. And I think that many people, many journalists ask me about the change of administration in the U.S. and the change of government in Israel. We've seen from our new partners that they are looking for long and stable relations with Israel. Their political changes does not change their will, and they does not change their plans in having close diplomatic relations with Israel, a very warm peace between our nations, a peace that will not only be in the level of governments and politicians and leaders, but also will touch each and every citizen in Israel, each and every citizen in the UAE, in Morocco, and in Bahrain. And it's a peace that will actually change the quality of life in the Middle East, and especially in our countries, and also the political stability in the region.
Okay, yes, so you mentioned the U.S., and I have to ask you, what's the role of the United States right now? What is the difference between the Biden and the Trump administrations and their commitment to the cause?
I think that we have to be very grateful for the U.S. administrations that for over 40 years is helping Israel achieve peace with its neighbors since the 70s till today, both Democratic and Republican. The Republicans helped us achieve a better understanding and closer ties with our neighbors. Without a doubt, the Trump administration and a major role in achieving the peace agreements of the year 2020. They have put a lot of efforts into achieving peace, and I don't think that we would have succeeded without them. But we have heard from the Biden administration, from high-level officials in the Biden administration, that they are 100% committed to the peace process in the Middle East, and they will help Israel bring more countries to the circle of peace and to be part of this new Middle East that we're creating.
Yeah, I think that the peace in the Middle East is just serving everyone. So I hope that we will be committed to that. And are you willing to expand your accords to the other Arab countries? I know you said earlier that you are in talks with some of the countries, but is there one country or the couple of them in the region that are interested in normalizing their relationships with Israel?
There are more than one or couple. There are a few countries that are in process. We are talking to almost every country, Arab country in the Middle East, every country has its own rhythm and its own considerations, and I do believe that when we celebrate the second anniversary of the Abraham Accords, or the peace agreements that we've signed within the framework of the Abraham Accords, we will definitely have more countries celebrating it with us. It's not only up to Israel, but I can say that Israel will do whatever it can in order to expand the peace agreements in the Middle East. This is our goal since day one, since Israel was created in 1948, and it still is. It's our goal and our dream.
Yeah, so a little bit harder question right now, because we always talk about superlatives and accomplishments when we talk about those kind of deals, but has there been any, what we can call an unintended consequences, or something that you can see where you can have a room for improvement, for example, in this accords, or another, by expanding them to the other Arab countries?
Actually, we were surprised about how eager the countries that we signed agreements with are committed to the process. In just 1 year, we've reached so many achievements in the bilateral relations. We have inaugurated 4 new diplomatic missions, Israeli diplomatic missions in the Middle East. For over 20 years, we had 2 embassies. Now we have 6 missions. And we have inaugurated also 3 new diplomatic missions of Arab countries in Israel, from the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco. This is a huge change. We have signed over 40 agreements. One of the journalists asked me if we met our expectations, and I told him that we actually met our expectations a few weeks after we signed the agreements. All the rest of the year, we're just advancing very fast in a process to create the infrastructure of future peace relations between the countries, not just agreements, relations that will affect each and every citizen in Israel and each and every citizen in the countries that we signed agreements with, but also citizens of other countries, both in the Middle East and outside of the Middle East, that will be affected by the peace that we have signed this year.
How important is the case of the embassies? And because I know that you are trying to encourage other countries to move their embassies to Jerusalem. And how is this working out?
First of all, establishing embassies is an important step because this is a permanent representative of the country, the government, the society, and the embassies are within themselves are bridges between the 2 countries. And as a diplomat, I cannot exaggerate when I said how the importance of having an embassy. Israel thinks that the foreign embassies in Israel should be in Jerusalem, which is our capital. It was our capital since the creation of the State of Israel. It was the capital of the Jewish people, of the heart of the Jewish people for the last 3,000 years. And there is no political or international decision that can erase the history of the Jewish people and its connection to the city of Jerusalem.
Yeah, so we'll be concluding my interview right now, but I have one last question. Having the opportunity, I have to ask about this, and about Israeli and Polish relationships. Recently, we heard rather harsh comments from the Foreign Minister Yair Lapid about new Polish laws, who he called anti-Semitic. And what does Israeli think? What should Polish government do to repair those relationships?
I think that in the last few weeks or months, we've made it very clear that if this new Polish law will pass, it will affect severely the bilateral relations between our countries. Unfortunately, even though we repeatedly said that publicly, this law passed, and this law affects in a negative way the Holocaust survivors and the family members of the Holocaust victims. I think that diplomacy is the art of innovation and creativity. There should be a solution that allows Holocaust survivors to be entitled to their memory, be entitled to their connection to the life that they had in Poland before the Holocaust, and there should be a change in the policy of the Polish government regarding that. We really hope that will happen, because the relations between Israel and Poland are important to us, and there is a huge community of Polish descendants in Israel. A very important part of the history of the Jewish people is laid in Poland, both before the Holocaust and during the Holocaust. So we do think that it's important that we'll find a way to step back from this new law and to change the way that it will affect Holocaust survivors and the family members of Holocaust victims.
So one last question is that what does the affairs right now look? Does Israel Foreign Ministry of Affairs have any contact with its Polish partners? Are these two sides willing to talk right now, or has there been any silence, about those talks?
I think that there were a lot of public announcements. We are waiting for a sign from the Polish side to a change in their policy. We still have an embassy in Poland. There is an embassy, a Polish embassy here, and hopefully we'll go back to the way things were before the two laws that passed.
Okay, thank you so much. That concludes my interview. Thank you, and cross fingers for you and the rest of the evening right now.
Thank you so much, and shalom from Jerusalem.
Shalom. Bye.